what I started doing last week, was talking about the mouse and how to get information into your computer using the mouse. I want to continue that today because the mouse is it's one of the most powerful things that we have on the computer to access, to do things. So what I want to do is I want to start giving you some programs that kind of use things. They sort of put things together. And I'm just going to start that now, but next week I'm going to go full bore with that, putting things together. Because each one of these, the voice part, using the mouse, being able to talk to it, it talks to you, and controlling the movements of objects on the screen, all that stuff, they're all tools that you use to do stuff with. I guess this is actually for the benefit of people watching the video more than you guys. Because what happens is when the video goes off, I talk to you a little bit and they don't see that. The basic plan is I write a series of programs that demonstrate how to use each thing, just sort of on its own. I say, this does this. This tells you when the mouse is clicked down or whatever. And then when we have like homework assignments and you actually going to write a program, I don't drop you off into space and say just write a program to do something. That's where they would do that in computer science. That's how we work it. What I do is I give you a program that's related to the ones we've been working with. So you can, normally what you can do, you can just fetch one of those programs and give it a name. Just take one of the programs runs, is one of the ones I gave you, and give it a different name, and then start replacing the parts of that program so that it actually does what you want it to do instead of what it does. Like, for example, the current homework assignment, not the automated one, but the current write a program one. All it requires you to do really is, it gives you a program with a picture and the pin in front of it activated. And the only thing I ask you to do is replace the picture, replace the pin, and move the picture, move the rotating thing around so that it's in the right place. There's really not much to it. So you don't even have to write a whole program. You just simply have to take a program and talk to it. And that's the basic plan I have. And then my theory is that it's like, you go to an art school, and when you begin the art school, they show you how to use the crayons and paints and everything like that. But there's always some artist there who has insight into, he or she has been doing art for a long time. And they can look at what you do and they can say, well, you should do it a little bit different, you should do this a little bit different. So what you're doing is starting off actually having them show you how to do it. It's like me giving you a program saying, here, this program does this. And then you start to distort the program by changing it and adding things to it and changing it. It's a different route to figuring out how to program than normally. And I'm kind of hoping it works with you guys because nobody in this group or online are really computer science majors, so you really wouldn't want to get into being a programmer. And the difference is if you go to programming school and you learn how to program, they start off very mechanically showing you how every single instruction works and how it's put together. You have to write dozens of programs to get used to the idea of out of a clear black screen, how to write a program, right? And then fill that black screen up with a program that works. In our case, you don't do that. You simply take a program that it is and change it and make it work, make it do what you want it to do. And that is a different strategy, I think. You both can end up in the same place. Given enough experience doing this or the way they do it, you'll end up in the same place. I have to tell you, in the beginning, when there were no programming schools, when I started, you basically had to look at another program and say, how do they do it? And you kind of get their idea of how they do it. Look at this guy, see how he does. And then you finally build your own strategy. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. Okay, got all that done? Last time we talked about using the mouse to drag stuff around the screen. I want to write a program here that doesn't drag stuff around the screen, but actually is back to a listening program. And what it does do is you can talk to the program and say do something, and the program will do it. But what I want it to do is slightly different than what we've done so far. Basically, I want to have the program do this. Here's a screen, and here's an arrow on the screen. Let's say it's pointed upward, like so. I want to be able to say to the computer, point that arrow to the right, and I want the arrow then to point this way. Or I want to say point it down, or point it to the left. And whatever I say, I want the arrow to go into that position. Well, the thing is, we do have a way of rotating. We could do that. You could actually rotate the thing. If they say go to the left, you could rotate it to 90, right, rather, you could rotate it 90 degrees. And you could rotate it 180, you could rotate, so you could take one arrow and do it. And this is the point of this exercise. There's different ways of solving the same problem. There's different ways you can do it, okay? A different strategy is to have 4 arrows in your computer, 4 pictures of arrows in your computer. And when you say one thing, it'll put that arrow up. And you say something else, it puts that arrow up. In other words, it puts it right in the same spot. But I want to show you how, from a JavaScript function, how you can change the picture that's in a given spot. So that's what this program does. It actually has 4 arrows, and the arrows, whichever one shows, is the one that's currently in that position. So like when you put the first arrow in, it's right here in that position. And what I'm going to say is, in that position, put a different arrow. Put an arrow points this way, put an arrow points that way. But I'm going to do it with verbal stuff. I'm going to simply say do it, and it's going to do it for us, okay? Now you got to remember that when you're going to talk to your computer, you got to have an include called listener. The listener thing has to be there so you can talk to it so it understands what you're saying. Okay, that's essential. So let me just write that program right there. The first thing you have to do is you have to put this include file in the script file. And it's the type. Sorry. Hope you guys are slower typers. Slower than I am here. That's the whole line. So you have to bring the listener so it'll hear what you're saying. He has to set that up to hear what you're saying, okay? Then you have to have a function called listen. And what happens is, when it hears you talk, it converts it into a transcription, and then it gives it to you. The transcript comes to you, okay? And you have to have this function right here, this exact name. It has to be called listen. These are all lowercase letters, by the way, as you may recall. Everything lowercase. So these 2 things are necessary. When you have a listener, it's listening to you, and it's going to send back the information to this function right here. Then what you do with it depends on what you want to do with the transcription. I'm going to make a variable. I'm going to call it A, and I'm going to set it equal to the transcription. Now let me explain to you why, because it's been a while since we did this. Transcription. It's the worst transcription I've ever seen. Transcription. And what happens is, listener talks to Google, and Google converts the words that you say into text, okay? Then it comes back to this function and sends it to you in a function called transcription. Now I'm lying a little bit because I actually am sending you back transcription. But the thing is that you don't want to do anything to that word other than copy it. By saying put this in here, you're just copying it, okay? You don't want to do anything to that, so start looking at it and parsing it or do anything to it, because if you do, you're going to be talking to this at the same time as Google's talking to it. This is like one of these parallel things where they're both talking at the same thing. Google's trying to figure out what you said, and it keeps sending you new versions of this thing, trying to figure out what you said. If you watch, when we have these things print out on the screen, you say, hello, I am Joe, and you say, it's hello, I am Go, oh, I am Joe, it keeps changing it on you, until it finally settles on what it finally figures it out. But in the process, it's sending things to transcription, constantly trying to figure out what to do, and then finally when it gets the answer, it's locked in. Well, to avoid our doing anything to that while they are doing something to it, I just simply say, take whatever it is now, put it in here, and treat that one. Don't worry about that one, just treat this one. So then whatever I do doesn't affect this, and therefore they can keep putting stuff in if they want, I don't care, okay? So that's the basic idea. You don't want to do anything transcription while they're working with it. Okay, then what I do is after I get that variable, all I'm going to do in this program is I actually, what I did up here is I put another window right here, little box, and what that does is, it's classic, and all my programs that do the same thing. I always, when you're talking to them, I like to see what you said, so that so clearly you can see the words. In other words, if it says something like, if you say I go left, and it says that's best or something, it completely misunderstands you. You don't want to leave it sit there like that, so you say go left again to make it do what you want it to do. So in other words, if you see what it's saying, you're better off than just assuming that it heard what you said correctly. So that's why I have this little thing right here. So the first thing I do is when I get the transcript, I say to the thing, I say, what did they just say? And it's O1 dot value. And that's what I call that thing right there, equals A. All I simply did is send 80 here to see what I said. Whatever it is. This is called out1 right here, by the way. That's out1 right there. So it's just an input statement. That's all it is. I'll write it out in a few minutes, but that's what it is. And then the question is, that I sent that out to see what it says. But now what I have to do is I have to look at the words and say, did they say the word up, down, left, or right? Those are the words I'm looking for, okay? So I do an index of to find out what it said. So what I do is I create these 4 lines here. One says variable. I want to know if up position is equal to, I'm going to explain what this is again for you. Dot index of, that's capital right there. Index of up. Now, here's what this line does. One more time. The index of, what it does is, it goes into, this is the line that it's going to look in. It's going to look into A, this thing right here. It's going to see if it can find the word up. If it finds the word up, what it returns over here is what character did it find it in? The 0 character, the first, the second, third, fourth? Where in that line A did it find it? So that's what it knows. If it gives you anything from 0 to a positive number, it means yes, I found it in here someplace. I found it in A, there was the word up, okay? If it doesn't find it, it puts a minus in here. It becomes a negative. So in other words, after I come through this line right here, if this is 0 or positive, it means it found the word up. Otherwise, it didn't find it, because it has no location for it. Okay? So that's the first thing. So I want to say is up. And I also want to ask it, I used down position. Left position. And finally, the right position. If any of these turn out to be 0 or higher, any of these turn out to be 0 or higher, it means that's what you said. You said one of those words, okay? There it is. Down those are all the ones you're going to see. So at this point, what you've got is what you said goes on the screen where it says set up there. And these guys here are trying to find out if there's a location for any of these words. In other words, did it find up? Did it find down? Did it find left? Did it find right? Any of these words it defines, one of these guys is going to be set to 0 or positive. One of them, okay? You don't want to say both words, by the way, but it won't affect anything. What it'll do is it'll take the last showing of it. That's the one that will happen. Actually, it'll take the first showing if you test the first. If you say both words, it's going to be, this program's not rigged for it. It's not going to mess. You can rig a program to say, if they say up, down, like that, you could rig it to deal with that. But in our case, we're just making it as simple as possible. So we're just assuming you're only going to say it once. Okay, at this point, we're still going on. We're continuing on this fine. Now, the next thing I want to do is, now that I have something in here, I want to say, if there is something in here, do something. Here's what I want to do. If there's something in here, I want to put the right arrow on the screen. If there's something in here, I want to put the down arrow on the screen. If there's something here, the left arrow. If there's something in here, the right arrow. So in other words, whichever one of these things turns out to be 0 or plus, I'm going to put the correct arrow on it. That's what I'm going to show you how to do. By the way, all 4 arrows have to be pings or JPEGs, whatever you want, but they have to be in the same folder as your program, so that you can call them up and get them. Okay, so I'm going to go down to the next line down here, and I say if position is greater than or equal to 0. You see what that says? That says simply that if it's greater than 0, it means I found the word up. Okay, that turns into a plus right here. It means I found the word up. What I want to do then is, if that's true, I want to say image 1. That's what I called my picture down below. That's what I call this picture right here, is image 1. And I'll set the code up for you in a second. Angus1.source equals, quote, up.png. That's the name of my file there. There it is. So here's how this part works. Supposing it found the word up in there, you said the word up, it found it, okay? Goes down here, it says, well, it found up in there, it's greater than or equal to 0, so therefore put this picture right here, which is in your folder, into image1.source. And in the body of the program, we're going to have image1 is going to be an ID, and it's going to have a source. It's going to have the original picture you put in, whatever it is. I'm going to happen to have that in there. The up's going to be the first one. So it's going to be there already. So in other words, this thing wouldn't do anything, it would leave it in the same position. But this one will do something. Down position greater than or equal to 0. In that case, put it in image1.source. Source equals down.ping. That's what I call the second file.
You gave them all the same name?
What?
They're all image 1.
Image 1. I put image. What's the question?
Is it always the same arrow, or is it a different arrow?
It's a different arrow. Up ping is an arrow, down ping is a different arrow. Yeah, it does go to the same place. That's the idea. The up arrow goes to the spot, the right arrow goes to the spot. No, it's image 1 is the location name. That's where it is. That's our name for this location right here. So therefore, whatever we put in that location is going to be a different picture, which is going to put a different picture in it. So let me see if I do this right here. Pay attention to what I'm doing. Okay, you say if right, left position greater than or equal to 0, then image1.source equals left.ping. And finally, if right position is greater than or equal to 0, then image1.source equals that's the end of the function. That's all it does. So at this point, if I say the word up, it comes down here, puts up on that said, comes down here and says, oh, I said the word up, so that turns that positive. These guys all stay negative. Comes over here and says, is this positive? Yes, it is. So therefore, you put that picture in that position, ing. Now let me set this up in the body of the program, okay? First of all, it's slash script right here, slash head. I got to squeeze it in a little bit, like that. And then I'll put body right here, body. And I'm using listener, so I have to say on load, capital L, equals listener dot JS. Listener dot JS here. No, this is wrong. On load, it has to go to the function, not the listener. It has to go to the function. This is not one of my. I set this up differently, so I gotta write the exact thing here. Sorry. There's an on load. Function you have to go to is, it's kind of a weird one. It's recognizer dot start open shut quotes, and that should be it. Right there. I might have also centered the text on the screen, but that's just what it looks like. It doesn't change anything. Okay, so that right there tells you, unload, that tells you you're going to use listener right here. Okay, finally, next thing, after the first line in this thing is going to be how do I do this? Well, I'm just going to put the out one. I'll put this first right here. Input. And ID equals quote out one. All that does is I need that right there, and it's right here. So it has a place to put the stuff. And its type is text. Text. And that should do it. I don't need anything else here. That's good enough. Okay, so that's going to be out one. That's going to make this box right here. And now I'm going to put this arrow. I'm going to put it in a specific spot. I say the arrow is an image, and the ID equals image 1, IMG1. That's IMG1 right there. That's the name of this image we're putting in. And its source, in this case, I give it a source right away. I give it up.png. In other words, I put a picture there to begin with. And this thing will just set that picture up ping right there. In position, I go to style equals, position's absolute. Absolute. And left is colon, left is 500, semicolon, and top is 500 also. And that closes quotes, and that closes that, and there it is. Okay, let me read that bottom line for anybody that maybe I hope my camera can see that. It says image ID equals image 1, and the source of it is a picture in your folder called up.ping, and the style is equal to position colon absolute, semicolon, left colon 500, semicolon, top colon 500, quote, close the chevron. Yeah, that's it. And that's all you really need. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, oh yeah, so we just say /body and /HTML. There it is, that's the whole program. Now, the program you're going to see online for this, which is called Index 4, it's got a little bit more to it, but the only thing it has is it positions this thing right here, this outline in the center of the screen. I have it to the side here. And it also may have a restart. If it stops listening to you, I usually put a button in here and says, click this and wake up. I didn't put the wake up button here, but that's the thing it adds, which all of the listening programs should have, because when it dopes out on you, you have to get it back again. I personally like to use this approach. I just hit the arrow, that arrow at the top of the browser. That reloads the thing all nice and clean, starts over again. But you can hit the wake up button if you want to. If we have one, we can put one there. As you see online, it has, the program does have a wake up button. So what this thing does is...
Is that a colon or semicolon after left?
After what?
Left?
Left is colon.
Just a colon, okay.
Yeah. You know, you always have, what the command is, how much it is. What the command is, how much it is. And then you have semicolons in between. So you have command, colon, how much. Semicolon. Command, colon, how much. So that's how it all works. It always works like that. I think that just about does it. The critical thing here, actually, the only thing that I've done that we haven't done before is this right here, where you can actually replace a picture. You get the name, when you originally put the picture in, you see I give it a name, image 1, and that's actually the name of the location. That's what I call this location, this picture in this location. And I can change it by simply saying right here, I can say image1.source, the source of it can be, so in other words, the original source was down, image source is right here, see, that's the original one. And so all I'm just doing is, and these things right here, I'm just replacing that source with a own. See, the whole thing, the whole trick of all these things is this. This line right here, the idea of that line is image 1. That's what that. And then within that image, I have a source. And I can change that source to something else and up in JavaScript. I also, by the way, have a style. If I look at this thing right here, this thing also has a style. So I can say image1.style. And then I can change I can change the left-hand side by saying left equals 20 or something. So in other words, in JavaScript, I can address this by simply saying that location in this line right here is image.style.left. In the case of source, it's just image.source because it's not inside the style, it's just right out here in the open. But that's what I wanted to make sure you got a grip on. You can change anything in these lines right here as long as you use the image one as the ID. You can actually, you have control over all of these numbers, whatever they are. And the nice thing about it is that every picture and every word, every paragraph, everything on the screen in JavaScript, you can do things with them. You can move them around, do whatever you want, because you still have the power to do that. Okay, that's it for that program. I want to just lay it out for you. Okay, is that kind of neat? Okay, any questions about it?
So,
it is on.
is there somewhere that the function closes? Because it opens there?
Where it closes? Right here, closes right here.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then I put it all in the same line, but so. But don't forget that, you guys. You can put things like this, or you put them like that. It doesn't make a difference. It reads just like we do. It reads down and across just like we do.
So you've got all these image sources listed as up.png, down.png, but yet there's only one up.png in the body. Do you need to have like 3 other images that are labeled down.png?
No. As soon as you say this right here, I'll say this. As soon as you say this, this comes in. It pulls it in. You don't have to have it in your program. It has to be in a folder. It has to know where to go out and get the thing and bring it in. So in other words, by saying this right here, if you only have one picture in the program to start with, and that's up, it brought it in and it put it on the screen. So that's sitting there. The other ones are in advance. They aren't being brought in yet. But as soon as you sees that line with it, it says, oh, grab that, put it in here. So it goes out and grabs it from your folder and brings it in. That makes sense to you?
So we still have to have pictures that are named that
Oh,
in
yeah.
the folder.
You have to have 4 pictures in there, right? Up, down, left, and right.
And so it just shows up on the program?
Yeah, what'll happen is, if you, for example, say, left, what'll happen is, it'll go over here, and it'll see this left, it'll jump over and say, in the source, put the left ping. So it'll go out and go left ping, and it'll replace that one right there. So all of a sudden, that'll be, I'm gonna show you this in a second, by the way,
Okay.
but it replaces it, and it becomes what you want.
Okay, I'm sure we'll understand when you show it to us.
Did you see the one I used that was, use the button, where you press the button, it turns red, you press it again, it turns white? That's in last week I put a program in like that. That actually sort of does the same thing, except it doesn't change the ping. What it does is it puts the picture forward, it brings it up into the upper layer in front of you. So you have two, and that one you have 2 pictures, and you have one of them with the red circle and one with a white circle. And what it simply does is when you click on it, it puts the red one in front of the white one. When you click on it again, it puts the white one in front of the red one. So it just keeps moving the layers back and forth, but they're both in the same spot. Yeah, someone else has a question?
Under style, almost at the very bottom, it says style equals, the very bottom on the right.
Right?
Style equals position, and in the after position, there's a semicolon?
Colon absolute,
Okay, colon absolute.
semicolon left, colon 500, semicolon top, colon 500.
Okay.
Yeah, it always, in order to locate any picture on the screen in any specific spot you want it in, you have to have position absolute, that has to be there. Because what you're saying is, when I say left and top, I want it to be from the left side of the screen, from the top side, absolutely in that position. That's a good. There's also one called relative, there's some other ones we haven't used yet, but don't get tangled up with them. You can tell it, for example, the last thing that went in, whatever it was, you can say go 30 to the left to the right of that by simply saying position relative. Then when that picture, whatever goes in there, this thing will go 30 to the right of it. So you can put relative, position relative, but don't do that now. I think that's just going to confuse things a little bit. This right here is a critical thing, position absolute, because wherever we put it here and here, then we can control that in our programs. We know where it is, so we can do stuff with it. Okay. Okay, so the next program, if this is okay, if I can leave this one. The next program is a little bit different. What we've been doing is, we've been using an include file called mouse. And what that mouse does is, and I pretty much explained it, I thought pretty clearly in the current, within the last day and today. And I explained how they use and over and over again. But what happens is, supposing you wanted to use a keyboard entry into your program. Suppose, for example, you want to hit the left key and have something happen, or the right key and have something happen. How would you do that? Okay. Well, it turns out there is a way for JavaScript to look at the keys and see what they are. It's possible to do that. So I wrote this first program, which is a very primitive one. It's what it does is a very simple thing. It just shows you, it can be done, it shows you the main characteristics of that thing. First of all, instead of using mouse.js, I invented another one called mousekey.js. Mousekey. And mousekey.js, it's one of these include files just like mouse. Only now what it does is it not only tells you where the mouse is when you want to, but it also will tell you when you hit a key, it'll tell you what key you hit. So it does both things. So, and it's only one, you don't need mouse and mouse key, you only need mouse key. It's got both in it, built in, okay? So I'm going to write that program now, and I'll show you what it does, and we can run it later too. But essentially what it does is it allows you now to get the keyboard as well as the mouse to enter information, which is really critical. Up to this point, we've been putting keyboard information by typing into these little boxes. But suppose you wanted to do something else, suppose you have a game, you have a bunch of little spheres on there, and you want to move them to the left or right, you can hit the right mouse and the right key, and it will move it to the right, or the up key and move it up. In other words, you can grab information from the keyboard and say, what do I want to do, just as well as you can with the mouse. So let me write that program for you, show you how it works. there are a number of system things involved in keys that I don't want to get into. So what I'm doing is, the numbers you're going to get are just regular decimal numbers. And we can look at those numbers and decide what we want to do with them when we get them. Notice each letter of the alphabet, each key that you hit, has a number associated with it. And I'm going to put up a list of what these numbers mean. There are, the places I can get it online. It's easy to get them. They're all over the place. And then you'll know when you press a key, if it says 45, for example, or 63 or something, you'll know what that means. You can say, well, if they hit 63, that means they hit an A or whatever it happens to be, okay? 62 or whatever. Actually, I've never memorized the numbers because that's not my style. Okay, this one starts off like this. This time, the script okay. And when this program runs, all it's going to do is one simple thing. It's going to show you a blank screen. Nothing's going to be there. But when you hit the letter A, an alert's going to come up. Alert box is going to come up and tell you what number A was. If you hit the letter B, it's going to come up. Alert box is going to come up and tell you what the number B was. Now, it's whatever key you hit, an alert box comes up and tells you what it is. This program is just to show you how to grab the letter and how to look to see what it is. That's all this does. How, the alert and everything, that's just the technique I use, that's all. So, first of all, I got a function. No, gotta have my script. Now, if you're using a mouse key, when you hit a key, what mouse does is it gets the number of that key and it sends it down to you, and it lands in this function right here, which is always called the same thing. You have to use the same one all the time. It's called a key hit. And that's it. Like that. In other words, what happens is whenever you hit a key, this program will send it down to here. It'll land here. Now the question is, you want to ask, what is the key? What does this key mean? You can do this if you want to. You can say, I made an alert. All that simply says is, tell me whatever is in this variable here. And the variable name is called keystroke. This is from that up there, keystroke. And that's all there is to it. That's the end of the program. So here's what happened, that part of it. So what happens is when you hit a key, it bounces down to here, and whatever's in that variable is the number of the key you hit. And I'm just printing it out on the screen as I'm just showing you what it looks like. Okay. And then you've got /script, /head. And the body's over here. Just it's a kind of simple body. It's got a body. The only thing you got to remember in the body is on load. You've got to have that. Load. And this time, the function name we want to unload is unload equals quote startup. Exactly the same as we used when we did test positions. So do I need that? No, I don't think so. I don't need that. So this is a simple version of the program. And then it has to have slash body slash HTML. No, there's nothing in the body, nothing there, no words, no anything, nothing. The only thing that appears is when you hit a key, something, a box appears with a number in it, that's all that happens. Now, this thing right here at /script/head, make sure I got everything, body, unload, that's all there is to it. It's a simple program. The critical things in this program are this. If you use mouse key, whenever you hit a key, it's going to come to this function by this name, and it's going to give you this variable, which contains the whatever it hit. And you have to have startup right here to get the thing going, prime it, to make sure it's going, okay? That's all there is to it. Pretty sharp program, huh? Okay, does everybody sort of see how the idea of it, how it works? It's not too complicated. The problem, of course, is you're going to show the key and you're going to see a number, you're not going to know what the letter is, okay? What we have to do is you have to get a chart someplace to find out what the numbers are, or you can build a thing in your program that says, well, if you see 60 something, this is an A, this is a B, this is a C. You can do that if you want to. Now, there's something else I have to tell you. The particular strategy I'm using in mouse key is not to look at upper and lower case. It doesn't know the difference between upper and lower case, because even if you hit the shift, it'll give you a number. It'll bounce up with a number like 16 or something. It gives you a number. So in other words, what this thing does is, your keyboard's got a bunch of keys on it. If you hit a key, no matter what it is, any old key, no matter what it is, it'll tell you what the number is. But you can't hold a shift and hit an A. That won't work. Okay, because it'll give you 16, then when you hit the A, it'll give you 60 something. So the problem is that this program here will not tell you upper lower case. This doesn't have the capacity of doing that. Okay, I can make one that does that, and probably I should do that for you. But this one here is only going to tell you which key you hit. And the reason why I chose this one over the other one, by the way, it's a historic thing, is that when you want to use the arrows, the other one doesn't like the arrows. This one likes the arrows. So in other words, what I did it in such a way that we can talk to the keyboard and things that you might want to use if you're doing funny keys to make stuff happen. And that's the reason why I chose this technique. It's a technicality that's involved in. Do you want to see uppercase A and lowercase a? Do you want to see that? Or do you just want to see hit the shift, hit A, hit B, hit C? And that's what I did. I chose that instead because we want to hit the different keys. We want to hit the arrow keys, the control key, the alt key, different keys you can hit. And this will tell you what you hit, no matter what it is, it'll tell you what you hit. That's the crucial thing. This captures the entire keyboard. Okay. There are some keys that mechanically are not available, but that's because the computer companies are all nuts, basically. They should make them all available to us. Okay, so that you got that program. That's up there. We can try that a little bit and show you how it works. So now you have, theoretically, you have the ability, you could build a game at this point, because in a game, you can use your mouse, you can use the keyboard, you can have things move around, you can have things spin, you can have anything go on. So you could have a bunch of things on the screen going on. You could make a whole game. It'd be pretty slow, it'd be kind of funny, but you could have a shoot 'em up game or something. The last thing I want to talk about is the complications of putting more than one object on the screen that you're going to grab with your mouse. Okay, I'm just going to do this pictorially. I'm just going to draw it pictorially on the screen, and then we do the video in a few minutes. I'll show you the program running and show you how the operation works. I in fact went to, I made a short video explaining it, but it is such a crucial thing, and there's lots of ways of approaching it. And actually what I did was, I took the approach I took last semester, and I even cleaned that one up a little bit so that it's a little better right now. So I think this is about as good as it gets, but it's still, when you start doing stuff like this, it gets longer and longer and longer. There's nothing you can do. If you have one object, you can write a little bit of code that grabs the object, just a little bit of code. If you have 4 objects, you have to have almost 4 times as much code to grab the different ones and make them do the same thing. It's like having 4 programs, one for each object on the screen. So the program looks awful long, but it's really repetitious stuff over and over again, one for one group of instructions for each object. So let me just talk about that for a second. When we had one object on the screen, like just a box or something, the mouse, you can see if the mouse goes down, you can see if it drags, you can see if it comes up. Okay, we can ask those questions by having those functions in there. The first thing is, if you're going to drag this object, the mouse has to go down on the object. That's the problem, it's going down on the object. If you go down over here, you do not want to pull the object. You want to say, I didn't hit it. So basically, the mouse down is when you make the determination whether you hit the object or not. That's where you make that determination. So what I always do is, I set what they call an indicator. I have some variable that I set at 0 to start with. And as soon as I hit the object, I know I'm on the object, then what I do is I set that equal to 1. And from that point on, I know that I've got a hold of this object. So if I start dragging the object, I go to the routine and says, make it move. As the mouse drag tells me I'm in a new position, I move the object. I keep moving it as the mouse moves. And then when I finally let go, I turn that indicator to 0 again, so that I no longer have a hold of the object. So then when I move my mouse around without pressing down on it, it won't drag along with it. Does that kind of make sense to you? These artificial indicators, it's an odd thing to have to do. But sometimes when you're working in a program that's got graphics, or a lot of programs do it, as soon as you do something, you have to set an indicator. Say, I am now doing this thing. Keep doing it until I unset that indicator. And so in this case, I press down and I drag and it goes with me. But when I let up, I go to a function. The up function says, undo that 1, turn it to a 0 again, so the mouse and the object won't drag with each other anymore. Okay, so that's the first thing you have to consider, what the programs are doing. The second thing is, when you have a ping, the actual image looks like this. This is transparent right here, but it is where the image is. So it turns out that this corner right here is the left position, and this corner right here is also the top position. So in other words, left, if you're left 300, that means to this position from the left side. If you're from the top 300, it means you're 300 from the top. That's where this point is right here. Now, this is something I keep saying over and over again, but here's where the trouble comes in. I've got my mouse. If I say grab within 10 pixels of this object, it will grab within 10 pixels of the corner up here, which is kind of dumb. Grab the object up there. You don't want to do that. You want to grab the object where you see it in its middle. So what you do is, instead of saying, I want the distance between where the object is and where I press the mouse, I want to have the distance between where the middle of the object is and where I press the mouse. So what you have to do is, when you go to the program called proximity, remember that one? What that one does is you have x1, comma y1, comma x2, comma y2. What this simply does is it says, how far is it between this point and this point? You're just finding the distance between those 2 points. That's all it does for you. So in other words, you put in the xy of this point here and the xy of the mouse, and it says how far is the mouse from this point right here. So that's what it does. So here's where the problem comes in. If these two right here are this corner, it won't work. So what you do is you say x1 plus half of this distance right here. So if this distance was 100, that would be plus 50. And then the second one would be y plus 50, plus 50. And then the other one would be x2, comma y2. In other words, what you got now is, this is where the mouse is right here, and this is where the center of the object is right here. And that's what you want, that's what you're trying to find out, is that distance is the distance you want to say. If it's small enough, I pick up the object. You turn on the indicator so they pick up the object. And that's the reason why these two things keep appearing here, and that's why I want you to see them, okay? Interesting thing is, when you, at the end of the routine, if you follow the thing through, at the very end of the routine, what you want to do is, after you've dragged the thing around a little bit, you want to reset the object's left, it's down in here, it's got a left something or other, and it's got a top something or other. It's got a left and a top, okay? But as you've been dragging it around with this thing, you drag it around, you drag it up to a new position. Now you want to let go of this thing. You're saying, what position is this thing in now? where is this object? Well, it's not where the mouse is. You don't want to put it where the mouse is. That would be a mistake. So here's the thing. Supposing your mouse is, when you let go, is mouse x3. That's where you let go. Mouse x3, comma, mouse y3. Oh no, x2, sorry. x2, mouse y2 right here. So this is where the mouse is when you let go. You don't want to take those two positions and put them into left and top, because what will happen is the object then will go, it'll move to this corner, will move down to the center when you drop the thing off. You don't want to do that. So what you do is, like here's what, if you drop the center, here's what, supposing the object's located at my xy, mx, and my. Supposing these are the positions of the object, okay? Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want to drop the thing off at that position. What I want to drop it off at is mx. Suppose the ID is picture PIX. PIX is the picture, its style, its left. What I want to drop it off at is not the position of the mouse right here. You don't want to drop it off the position of the mouse. You want to drop it off at the position of the mouse, x2 minus 50. Because you want to compensate for that. And this one over here, picture style dot top equals mouse y2 minus 50. In other words, if you look at the end of the routine, you move the thing around, you stop, and you leave go. Now where do you leave the object? You don't want to leave it where the mouse is. You want to leave it its corner right here. So what you do is you say, leave the object at here, and it does, and then it stays in that position. It's kind of a hard thing to get used to. You've got to get used to the idea that you're grabbing the mouse not where its real position is. You're grabbing it to the right and down from that position. But when you let go, you've got to remember that wherever your mouse is not where the object really is. That's the middle of the object. So then you say, where's the object? It's 50 less than where I am, and 50 less vertically than where I am. That's why you need these two guys here. And they'll appear in your program someplace. Pix being the ID of the object you're moving. Okay. So that's kind of the way that works, and it's a little bit hard to get used to. But let's, what do you say we go to the computer, and I'll run these programs. As I said, I made an explicit video just to talk about this, and you probably should look at it if you're going to use this thing at all, any of your programs. And you never know your final project what you might use, because to get an idea, you have to be able to do it. Okay, so give me a second here to get this operational. I'm going to take a break or anything.